All right. Hey, everybody. Dr. Sean Talbot here. Sorry we're starting 1 minute late. Let me get my chat windows open real quick. We're going to talk tonight about, well, what you can see on the screen already. We're going to talk about mental fitness through the decades and what you should focus on each decade of your life to improve your overall mental fitness, your mental clarity, your creativity, your focus, your energy levels, your motivation, all that kind of stuff. There are, um, there are a few things that are going to be important across all of the times, all of the decades, and so we're going to talk about those as well. Okay, so there, you should be able to see my slides now. I got to get one more window open, and then we'll be able to start. Beautiful. Okay, so mental fitness through the decades. This is a topic that of all the things that I get asked by journalists who call me, people who are writing articles for, website articles or magazine articles or something like that. Um, this is it. Magazine writers always want to do like, what should you focus on in your 20s? What should you focus on in your 50s? What should you focus on in your, blah 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 blah. And I have to be honest with you, it's a little bit artificial, right, to do it that way because we need to focus on all the things all the time. It's not like, you focus on your physical activity when you're in your 20s and then that doesn't become, it loses its importance in the 40s and you don't want to focus on that anymore and you focus on something different. You're focusing on everything all the time, but you can make a case, and I'm going to make the case for you tonight that there are certain things that you want to focus on more as a younger person or a middle-aged person, as an older person. And we'll get into the sort of, whys and wherefores and practical applications of that as we go through here. So mental fitness through the decades, how to optimize your brain, hormones, microbiome, and stress resilience at every stage of life, what's happening in your 20s and 30s, 40s and 50s, 60s and beyond, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. For anybody who tunes into my weekly webinars like this, these master classes, you know that, I love the science and I love to talk about the science and share new research. But what I love even more is the practical application of that. So the last piece of it is a practical decade by decade plan. And couple little surprises as we go through here. So let's just think about this, right? Things change across the decades. Look at how fashion changes from the 50s to the 60s to the 70s and all the way. Like when I was in high school, this is what the girls were wearing, this is what the boys were wearing. I never really had a hair like that, but I did have the Sean Cassidy look going way back then. But fashion changes and we can see that. Things in our bodies are changing too through the decades, and we don't always see that until it's too late, right? Things will change until something breaks, and then we notice it, or something gets to a point where it's just not working anymore, and then we notice it. And there's some biochemical reasons for that. There's even some new research suggesting that you can track the aging clocks, if you want to say it that way, of different organs will have different trajectories of aging. So for example, your heart might be aging faster than your gut, and that might be aging faster than your brain, and that might be aging faster than your liver or your pancreas, or et cetera, et cetera. So there's sort of a whole body average effect of aging that's going on, but then we can get really sort of, specific and say, this tissue or this organ is aging faster or slower than the rest of the body. And that brings in some interesting things because as we go through here, you'll see there's sometimes you want to focus on your brain, so the one in your head. Sometimes you want to focus on your gut lining. Sometimes you want to focus on your metabolism and your blood sugar control and things like that. So and this is why, because sometimes we can point to different organs that have like an aging spurt, so to speak. Okay. I write about this a little bit in my mental fitness book that came out a couple of years ago. I write about it a little bit in the Wild Medicine book. that comes out in January, and then is actually on pre-order right now. So here's a little plug. Pre-orders really, really help authors because it lets the bookstores know if if a book's going to be popular, they'll stock more of them and things like that. So as they say, anywhere where books are sold, you can order Wild Medicine, and I think you'll like this. I'm actually talking to a couple of studios right now about maybe making this into a TV series, which would be super, super cool because it's a different kind of book for me. It's something where I kind of document my travels, right? So that, the idea is I've been traveling around the globe for decades now, going to Madagascar and Africa and the Amazon and et cetera, looking for these medicinal plants, right? Wild medicine, right? That's what these medicinal plants are. And, meeting the people and meeting the plant and looking at what the research says, and then trying to bring this to the modern world so it helps somebody with their mental focus or their mood or their energy levels or their motivation or any of the kinds of things that we talk about on this masterclass. So the book has some nice stories of those travels and the people that I get to meet, but it also has some very practical recommendations about what you can do for your heart health or your gut health or your mood or your energy levels or all that kind of stuff. So check that out. And I always share this with people at the beginning of these master classes. I have a particular bias when I'm talking about this kind of stuff. I'm trained in nutritional biochemistry. That's what my PhD is in. I look at the biochemistry. I use it to inform what's happening in the body, what's happening in response to these interventions. Sometimes people call me a psychonutritionist because a lot of that biochemistry drives our psychology. That's the psycho part. And so, the nutrition is changing, how we behave, how we show up, how we perform. You can read all the other blah 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 there, but that's my bias, if you will, right? That everything can come back to some aspect of biochemistry. And if we can understand that, then we can modulate it in a positive direction, right? If it's going in a negative direction and it's causing us to have brain fog, or it's causing us to be in a bad mood, or it's causing us to not feel the way we want to feel, well, we can push it back the other way with movement or better sleep quality or an herbal supplement or the right diet or whatever the case may be. Okay, so that's my bias, but it's based on science. Okay, that is also my bias is also that I run a company called Three Waves Wellness. It's the holistic mental fitness company. It's that we bring all of this together. Even though I talk a lot about herbs and things like that, like in Wild Medicine, it's all about herbs. It's not just about that. It's all about lifestyle. It's about getting you to sleep better. It's about getting you to move your body better. It's about getting you to have better social connections. This is a virtual social connection, I guess, but it's really important. So our company, which was named a startup star for this year, 2026, has been busy, right? We set up the world's first mental fitness retreat. You can come here and visit me, and I'll make you high protein, high fiber waffles in the morning, sort of bed and breakfast style. We have trained about 1,000 mental fitness coaches. We're actually having a special right now, a back to school special on our certified mental wellness coach course. Right along with that, we have a mental fitness community where people get together. And well, tomorrow is Friday, so we're having a live coaching call where all the coaches and students are going to get on the call, and we're going to talk about new research. We're going to share some of our tough clients, and get a perspective on how we can help them. We're going to answer each other's questions. We're going to share different interventions and things like that. And we've launched a small line of science-based nutraceuticals along with an affiliate program, so people can share the products and make a commission if people decide to buy them. So we've got stress chocolate, we've got desert tea, which is an herbal infused kombucha. And it's not 3 products anymore. It's actually 4 products. So Zenith is our product for stress resilience. So you take this during the day and it helps you handle stress better through a biotic effect across your whole gut brain axis. And then this guy just came to us the other day. This is Zephyr. This is our new sleep product. It's not even launched yet. It's in pre-launch right now, but it's a really, really cool product that helps you sleep. So you take Zenith during the day to help you deal with stress. You take Zephyr before you go to bed to help you with overall sleep quality, and you feel amazing. So that's that. This is how we do it here at Three Waves. It's very science based, but it's also very practical. So we take the science, we figure out what's going on out there in terms of your, well, out there, but in here in your biochemistry, and then we figure out how can we harness that in a way that actually gives you a practical something to do so that you can get the benefits of that science. So science guides us, nature heals us, practice transforms us, and that's what we're all about here. Okay, and that's all I'll say about that because I really want to get into this concept of the connected brain wheel. So I talk a lot about how you feel is not just in your head, it's also in your gut, right? Your gut as your second brain. But we also talk about the heart as a third brain. We talk about information coming to the brain in our head from the rest of our body through our nervous system, across our vagus nerve, through our immune system, through our circulatory system, across our inflammatory cascade, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the idea of the connected brain, that the brain in your head is just a node along with all these other sources of information. And if we can get all those sources of information going in the right direction, the positive direction, the brain in your head is going to function at its optimal level. You're going to have good mental focus and good mood and good energy levels and good resilience and good sleep quality and all that kind of stuff. So that wheel, if we look at the sort of pillars of that wheel, you can see the six of them around here. Learning and neuroplasticity. We had a whole masterclass about neuroplasticity just a couple of weeks ago. Stress and hormone balance, movement, nutrition in the microbiome, social connection and purpose. We talked about the concept of ikigai a couple of weeks ago, and then environment and lifestyle. So I'm going to go through each one of those. When I was putting this together, I tried as hard as I could to put sleep and recovery as one of these seven pillars, if you will, or pie slices, however you want to say that. And I just couldn't do it across this idea of the decades, right? The things that you should focus on in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, et cetera, because it is so fundamental at each one of those stages of life. It was, I said at the beginning, like it's a little artificial to say focus on this when you're 20 and focus on this when you're 70, but it was too artificial to say focus on your sleep in this decade, but not in the other decades, okay? Because it really is such a foundational, important thing. So I put it in the center because it really does affect all of these different pillars, and you'll see as I go through. Each one of these. So what I'm going to do is, take this infographic. I'm going to blow it up. I'm going to talk about each one. I'm going to give you some practical recommendations, and I'm going to keep an eye on the I'm going to keep an eye on the chat up here just in case there's some questions that get tossed in there. And people are just, at this point they're just talking about ordering the Zephyr that just came out. But don't order it yet. In fact, I don't even think you can find it on our website yet. We have it on a hidden page because it's in pre-launch. And I'll tell you how you can order it if you want to. We're offering a massive deal right now, just until the end of the month. So I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that in the end. Okay, so where'd my cursor go? Let me see if I can get it back. What if I just do this? Okay, so this is the upper left-hand corner of that wheel infographic, the connected brain wheel. Mental fitness is multifactorial, right? So these six domains that I have, they influence each other, and they influence across the entire lifespan. So the one of the problems I ended up having with my personal clients and teaching my students about how to approach their clients is that we very often want to do all the things at once. You'll get a very motivated client, and they want to change their diet, and they want to change their physical activity plan, and they want to get a good sleep regimen, and they want to do all the things. And you almost have to pull back on the leash a little bit and say, hey, wait a minute. It all is important, right? That's not inaccurate to say, right? It is all important. But sometimes we have to focus on one thing and optimize that one thing because that's what matters right now. In another one of my master classes, I talked about this concept of helping people identify what I called, and I'll do this in quotes, primary limiter. There's all kinds of ways we can do this. We can do this with questionnaires. We can do this with just talking to each other, asking lots of good questions. We can do it with blood work or urinary measurements, right? There's all kinds of ways we can find out what is the main thing that is your problem right now. What's the thing that's blocking you? What's the thing that's causing you the most problems? That's the primary limiter. And this is a similar concept with these pie slices. Focus on the main enemy, the main villain, and solve that, because if you solve that, very often what you get is this positive ripple effect. So if you solve the thing that's causing you the most grief, a lot of the other little things sort of modulate themselves into balance. Okay, so it isn't that, that as we go through here, when I talk about focusing on neuroplasticity in your 20s, it doesn't mean that that's no longer important. It means that you might just be focusing on something else as a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old. Okay, so hopefully that resonates with everybody. So this is the bottom of that infographic. And what it's showing is the main priority on average in each decade. Now, this might change for you, the individual, right? We can look and we can say like, among all the 50-year-olds out there, the main thing for them is probably going to be their movement practice. Are they in the gym? Are they walking? Do they have good balance? Those sorts of things. But for you, if you're already in amazing shape, that might be something that we'll go, well, all right, you've already got it solved. Let's focus on something else. You might have a different primary limiter. Okay, so take that with a grain of salt, so to speak, right? That this is sort of like on average based on what we know from the science. Okay, so we're going to go through each one of these in turn, but we're keeping in mind all six areas matter in every decade. It's just sort of like you're shifting your lens a little bit about what you're really, really going to focus on. Okay. All right. So sleep and recovery, I put in the middle, as I already described you, because it really does. If you are deficient in sleep, it's a metabolic train wreck. It really is. If you are, it, I've done other master classes just about sleep. So if you want to dive into the nitty gritty of sleep, you can go to my YouTube channel and you can find that kind of stuff. But I'll just paint this metabolic picture for you really quickly. If we take somebody who has 8 hours of really good quality sleep, that's what we call a normal sleeper. If we compare them to someone who gets 6 hours of so-so sleep, maybe it's a little fragmented, maybe it's not great sleep quality, but or maybe it's fine, but it's just 2 hours deficient in terms of using eight as the sort of target. That 6 hour person we call a short sleeper. That short sleeper has about 50% overexposure to cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. As a result of that, that cortisol is blocking their insulin, the hormone that controls blood sugar. So they have fluctuating blood sugar. They're more likely to gain weight. They're more likely to be depressed because that cortisol is also blocking serotonin, so you're not as happy as you should be. It's blocking dopamine, so you're more fatigued and less motivated than you should be. It's blocking GABA, so you can't relax and you feel tense and irritable all the time. So that's just because of the cortisol. There's all kinds of other metabolic disruptions. You're more inflamed. That cortisol, when it's chronically high, let's say you get 6 hours of sleep on a regular basis, that chronic cortisol exposure is going to become catabolic in your body. It's going to start breaking down your muscles. It's going to start expanding your belly fat. It's going to break down your gut lining. That's going to lead to leaky gut. That's going to lead to immune system dysfunction. So it's a biochemical dominoes game going in the wrong direction just because you're sleep deprived. And sleep deprived is just those 2 hours. So it's a big problem. But if you can solve that sleep problem, then what you get is you go from being catabolic, your tissues breaking down, you go into a state of rebuilding. So your tissues were able to, repair themselves and regenerate themselves. Your motivation comes back, your brain fog goes away, your leaky gut goes away, et cetera, et cetera. All because you took away something that was so like insidious and toxic, which is just that loss of sleep. And the reason that I like I get a little animated when I talk about this is because so many people, literally millions of people, have this problem of inadequate sleep. And some high percentage of those millions of people will just go, well, yeah, it's just a loss of sleep. It's probably no big deal. I'll just have another cup of coffee or I'll have an energy drink, right? It's a really, really bad biochemical situation that I want people to be aware of, because if you solve it, so much else resolves. People lose weight, people have their energy comes back, their mood comes back, their focus comes back, all that kind of stuff. And they didn't do anything else except for solving that sleep problem. Okay, so it's a big deal. Okay, let's get into the decades. Let me look in here right now, and I see a couple of things. People are just chit chatting, I think, and okay, I'll come back to that in a little bit. Okay, 20 to 30. This is your building time. This is when you're going to be growing neurons. This is when you've got abundant hormones, abundant neurotransmitters. You're in a great place, but this is also a place to continue that building phase, right? To really lean into that neuroplasticity. This idea that if we so neuroplasticity is your brain growing and developing and setting up new neuron connections and things like that. We talked a lot about that 2 weeks ago when we talked about the brain. Your brain is highly plastic. Experiences and habits build neuronal connections, cognitive reserve that sets the foundation for lifelong mental fitness. So, in a sense, the more that you can build in your early decades, the more you have to lose in later decades, right? That's what I mean by this cognitive reserve. You've got more of a buffer that you can, lower that down as you age without a deficit in your performance, right? You'll still have the memory capacity, you'll still have the stress capacity, you'll still have the resilience if you've built a good reserve at the very beginning. So the practical takeaways of all right, that sounds great, but how do you do that? Like, what do you actually do? Learn hard things, challenge your brain with new skills, exercise regularly. So exercise is actually one of the best ways to increase something called BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor. So here's one little hack. If you can try to learn something while you're exercising, you don't just get a 1 + 1 = 2 sort of an effect. You get an exponential effect. This is one of the reasons I recommend like silly little hacks, like listening to a book or listening to a podcast while you're walking. Or while you're running or while you're riding. I went for a bike ride today and I listened to a book about Benjamin Franklin while I was, I'm pointing to my one ear. I only have one earbud when I'm cycling. This is why I recommend little hacks like going on walking meetings. This is why when you so there's that, right? Learn something while you're walking. There's also a benefit of when you go walk the dog, for example, to not listen to anything if you're trying to work through a problem. So the physical activity of the walking can actually, because of what it's doing biochemically, blood flow and neurotransmitter production and BDNF activation of those neural connections can help you solve problems better. This is one of the reasons why when we're out there doing our thing, we will sometimes come up with a breakthrough, right? Or we'll be able to solve a problem in a different way than if we're sitting there trying to use our brain power to solve it. Okay, so we can use the movement at the same time because not just because of the movement, but the movement increases these nerve growth factors, and it can help that way. And there's a couple others down there. So the 20s are all about building as much of that reserve as possible. Okay. So let me see. I just saw somebody put something in here. It says, so teaching dance and dance group fitness and having to give cues while dancing, but using my own storytelling as cues throughout my 20s and 30s probably really helped my brain. 100%. Yes, that's a great example that's in the chat there. In your 30s to 40s, this is about protecting and protecting from stress because this is usually the highest stress time of life for most people, right? What's happening in your 30s and 40s, right? You're in the early part of your career, you're climbing up the corporate ladder, you're taking on more responsibility, you're building a family at the same time, usually, right? So on average, you have a lot of things that are stressing you out. So stress often peaks in this decade. Chronic stress can impair mood, sleep, focus, immunity, acceleration of biological aging. All the things that I said before when I was talking about the sort of sleep deprivation increase in your cortisol levels and causing tissues to break down faster. So, what are the practical takeaways? How do you do that? You say sorry family, sorry boss, sorry work. Like this is the time you like this is the time to go. This is the time for you to build your family and your career and all that kind of stuff. If you kick back, then that's going to be a problem. So build in daily recovery rituals, prioritize sleep and time in nature. Nature can be a really effective um, buffer modulator of the stress response. Sometimes when I'm talking about nature exposure, it's as simple as going to the park and taking off your shoes, exposing yourselves to the phytoncides, which are the plant signals that trees give off and bushes give off and grass gives off, that we actually will resonate with, electrically, and biochemically, and it sort of has a de-stress effect. Practice stress regulation. This could be movement, like I just described. It could be dance, like Mary put in the chat. It could be a formal practice. It could be breath work or meditation or yoga or Pilates or something like that. This is something that this bullet point right here: set boundaries and protect downtime. This is something that my generation um, did poorly, did not do very well at all. When I was at this age, me and my wife both, we were getting up early, going into the office early, coming home late, burning the candle at both ends. After the kids went to bed, we'd be answering emails and things like that. And I look back on it and I think to myself, I wish I was more like my kids' generation, where they're very much less likely to do that. They're very good at setting boundaries about their work-life balance, about not taking work home, about not doing that kind of stuff. And I wonder if they just learned it from watching their parents, right? That is a very, very important thing to set boundaries and protect your downtime, because what you end up doing is, by doing that, you're able to come back to your career. You're able to come back to the work part, and you're more refreshed. You're more like you haven't depleted your bandwidth, and you're more impactful, you're more productive, right? And there's some good studies to show that. Okay, and then strengthen social connections. Social connections are something that I talk about a lot. I have them as a very important thing to do in the later decades, but of course, they're important. They're important at all times. Okay, this one, so I cheated on this one a little bit. 40s and 50s. This one is really about hormone balance. This is when hormones are going to change. So it says recalibrate, and it says hormones and metabolism. Hormonal transitions, metabolic shifts begin to impact energy, mood, body composition, brain function. 40s and 50s is a really important fork in the road, so to speak, right? When you find yourself in that stage of life, you could go down the correct fork, the right, the positive fork, and you could be doing the right things around maintaining your hormones, keeping your cortisol low, keeping your insulin balance, right? What we call insulin sensitivity, things like estrogen, testosterone, those sorts of things that start to change at this time of life. If they go too far out of whack, you start going down the other branch of the fork in the road, and you will sometimes wake up. Here's sort of a very uh, fine point I'll put on this. I work with a lot of people who will wake up on the Monday before their high school reunion, which is on Saturday, and they go, "Holy crap! Where did these 30 pounds come from? How did I get in this kind of shape? I need to get in shape really fast." And we're like, well, because their high school reunion is coming up, or some sort of a big event is coming up. That didn't happen in 1 week. It happened in little by little by little. But this is that fork in the road where you sort of notice some of that stuff, because this is the time where 50 is the average age of menopause. 50 is the average age of not when andropause happens, that's sort of male menopause, but that's when most guys notice it, right? So estrogen falls off a cliff right around age 50 for most women. For men, testosterone is going down like, average 1% a year after age 30. So, at age 50, it's 20% down. And that's usually the tipping point for most men, where they realize, wait a minute, now I have all this weight around my midsection, my muscle mass is a little bit lower, my sex drive is not where it needs to be, my sexual performance is not where it needs to be, my mood is not where it needs to be, so it's a little more abrupt. Well, it's a lot more abrupt for women, but men and women sort of, right around age 50, notice this kind of stuff. But there's ways that we can practically maintain those hormone levels. So monitor and support hormone balance, strength train two to three times a week, prioritize protein, fiber, whole foods, support insulin sensitivity, stable blood sugar, get regular health assessments. And what I'm talking about are things like this. I've mentioned most of these already: cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, neurotransmitters, insulin. And this is one of the places where I think supplements can be really beneficial for a lot of people, because there are some very effective herbals that are out there, right? So, again, this is the kind of stuff that I write about in Wild Medicine. Theanine for your stress levels, shatavari for your estrogen levels, DHEA and tonkat ali for your testosterone levels, cordyceps for your energy levels, rafuma for your neurotransmitters and your mood, gymnema for your insulin sensitivity. So there's some very targeted herbs, or amino acids, or whatever category each of these fall into, that we can use to say, oh, your primary limiter is testosterone. We have a solution for that, along with diet and exercise. Your primary limiter is estrogen fluctuations. We have shatavari that we can use in that situation, right? So that's one of the places where supplements can be kind of like the front end of some of those solutions, instead of, in a lot of these situations, they're the cherry on top once you've solved all the other lifestyle things. Okay. So let me see. Tom's saying, I normally walk to an audiobook or listen to great music, also grounding, AM, age 65. Exactly. That's exactly the kind of stuff that we want to do. So Tom's, solution is a Tom solution, right? That works for him. Somebody might look at that and go, huh, maybe a piece of that's going to work for me, but I want to do this other thing that's going to work for me, right? That's why these practical takeaways are like, they're like breadcrumbs, right? I'll take a little bit of this, but none of that, please, right? It enables us to sort of pick and choose and customize whatever regimen is going to work for us. Like, I'm not a meditation guy. That isn't really what works for me. But I love to do what I call a moving meditation, which is I go walk with my dog, and she's a very good listener, so we can get through a whole bunch of different things, and she's just happy to listen to me chat, when we go on our 2.5 mile loop that we do on a pretty regular basis, right? That works for me, but it might not work for everybody else. Okay, where's my cursor? There we go. So 50s and 60s. This is when you really want to try to strengthen things. This is strength training, or lifting weights, or resistance exercise is one of the most underappreciated um, medicines, I guess you could say. I'm a fellow of an organization called American College of Sports Medicine, and the ACSM. And the tagline for ACSM is that exercise is medicine. And I love that, but I don't like the word exercise. I would rather if they said movement is medicine. But it's a, it's an exercise organization, so I understand why they had that. The reason I don't like exercise as is medicine is because it's off-putting to a lot of people. There's a lot of people who would look at that and go like, oh, I don't know if I want to, join a gym, or I don't want to like train for a marathon, or I don't want to take up running or jujitsu or something like that. It really is just moving your body. And so, what I love people to do, all these things, muscle mass, VO2 max, balance, all decline naturally, mostly because we become more sedentary. And because we get sedentary, we lose muscle mass. Because we become sedentary, we lose respiratory capacity, which is what VO2 max is. We lose balance. We lose like it's sort of a use it or lose it scenario. And because we become sedentary, we lose it, if that makes sense. So if you can just move in whichever way you like best, then you're going to be able to maintain some of that. So exercise is one of the most powerful tools to protect brain health, mood, independence. And what I would love people to do is strength train twice a week and do aerobic training like walking or cycling or jogging or pickleball or something like that. Some kind of continuous rhythmic movement 2 or 3 times a week. So that means that you're moving your body, 6 times a week, 7 times a week if you can. Um, and don't forget about balance. This is one of the reasons that I love things like paddleboarding, right? I also skateboard. I have an electronic skateboard that I can like go around, and like I don't have to kick my foot. I just lean. It has a little motor on it. It's called a one wheel, and I can tool around on that, but it helps me with my balance the same way that a balance board would, or surfing, or paddleboarding, or like a multi-movement activity like pickleball or tennis or something like that. Those are all wonderful, wonderful ways to do it. And if you can stay as active on it as many days a week as possible, that's why it's like it says movement is medicine for brain and body. And I prefer that movement idea because it makes it more approachable for people. Okay. 60s and 70s. Nourish. This is where we really start to see changes in the gut lining, changes in the microbiome, the bacteria in your gut. They've been changing all along, but this is when, I use this terminology before. This is when it breaks. This is when you notice something. This is when you see, your gut barrier function is weak enough where now we could describe it as leaky gut. And then that leaky gut irritates your immune system. Now your irritated immune system increases your inflammation. Now you have chronic inflammation, what sometimes we call inflammaging, because it accelerates the aging process. So, you know, you ideally would have been eating a high fiber diet all along, 30 plant challenge kind of thing. But this is where you really, really need to focus on it. So a diverse plant rich whole foods diet, lots of fiber, lots of fermented foods, lots of polyphenols like flavonoids, the things that make berries, blueberries blue. That's a flavonoid. Prioritize protein and omega 3s. Somebody asked me the other day what my two favorite foods were. Only two, and I was like, can I have three? Because I wanted to say fiber, fermented foods, and flavonoids, and they said no, and those aren't foods. I want to know what your favorite foods are, like actual things that I can go to the grocery store and buy. And I went, okay, blueberries and sardines, and don't eat them together, but separately. They do amazing things across all of these three brains, right? The second brain in your gut, the third brain in your heart, the first brain in your head. So those are lovely things to try to get into your life, and then limit ultra processed foods. Of course, yeah, this is another one that goes across all the decades, but it really, really is particularly bad for us when we're in this 60s decades of life. And then, because I just had a birthday a while ago. I'm almost in this decade. I'm at the very last year of this decade, right? So I didn't want to end on this decade because I'm gonna be in that decade next year. So I had to go out to this one, 70 plus. And this is where I put the social connection and purpose. This is a couple weeks ago we talked about this concept of ikigai. And I grabbed my poster from over there and I brought it over so I could show everybody. It's this idea of like, what is your purpose? What is it that's getting you out of bed? At this time of life, our families are, if we have children, they're grown up. They probably have their own families and they're doing their thing. We're probably retired, so we don't have the connection of, being in an office or having coworkers and things like that. You have to figure out what your purpose is, and you have to actively work to have those social connections. This is why, like, joining a pickleball club or a walking club or a book club or something like that, so that you have those meaningful connections and you have some sort of a purpose. Like, your purpose might be helping your children and your grandchildren and things like that. Your purpose might be, being a business mentor. Your purpose might be going and teaching. Your purpose might be volunteering. Your purpose might be a zillion different things, but you need to find something that really sort of motivates you to get up and get out there and stay socially engaged. So there's all the bullet points. I think I went through most of those as I was talking. So this is the bottom again. This is the bottom of that infographic. And if you're in our mental fitness community, you get these slides, you get these infographics, right? I post them up there. So I'm recording this on the Thursday. I'll post those up there on a Friday. You'll be able to download them into your personal library. People will, sometimes comment on them and things like that. So, here it is, just sort of summing up the main priority in each decade: building, protecting, recalibrating, strengthening, nourishing, and connecting. And remember, at the beginning, I showed that around these pillars, there was, in the middle, there was sleep. And so sleep is one of the, like, it is one of the biggest problems out there for so many people. And I already described that, why it's a problem, what it does, how it interferes with everything in your body biochemically. Um, and if you could solve that, that would be great for a lot of people, right? So this product, I've been working on this product for a long time. It's called Zephyr. So Zenith is our daytime product for stress resilience, helping you deal with stress better. So it helps your mood, it helps your energy levels, it helps your motivation, it helps you just navigate your stressful world with more zen. That's why we named it Zenith. Zephyr is restorative ritual for sound sleep. It's a little stick pack. It's melatonin free. You guys know I'm not a big fan of melatonin. It's sugar free. It's sweetened with stevia and monk fruit, and it's mojito inspired. So this little stick pack, you dump it into a glass of water or bubbly water, and it makes a mojito, which is a nice little mocktail. That's mojitos, for people who don't know mocktails. It's lime mint, so it's a nice little way to have a little evening ritual. I'm going to show you what the ingredients are. So each serving, and I'm super, super psyched about this formula. So the first part of it is a patent pending blend called Glycema. It's a combination of glycine, which is an amino acid, and gymnema, which is an herb from Ayurvedic medicine that helps to balance blood sugar. So the reason this is here is because one reason people have trouble falling asleep is because they're hot. Glycine at 3,000 milligrams, 3 grams, helps your body cool itself. So when you take that amount of glycine, you can feel your body getting cooler. And that cooling effect signals to the brain that it's time to sleep. It's sort of like it's a wind down signal. So that's the reason that's in there. The gymnema is there because a lot of people who wake up during the night wake up because of blood sugar fluctuations. This is thought to be one of the reasons that a lot of people who are on GLP-1s have trouble sleeping, is because their blood sugar is crashing overnight. So if your blood sugar crashes overnight, that spikes your cortisol. That cortisol then wakes you up because it's sort of an alarm bell to your brain. And then you wake up and sometimes you fall back asleep, sometimes you don't. But you shouldn't be waking up multiple times a night because of your blood sugar fluctuations. Gymnema helps to normalize those blood sugar fluctuations. So the combination of those two, cooling your body and maintaining blood sugar, what is called, if your blood sugar drops overnight, it's called nocturnal night hypoglycemia. The patent that I've filed is the combination of these two to help prevent that. Okay, so it improves your overall ability to stay asleep during the evening. Then there's a lime peel extract. This is a brand called Benisomno Good Sleep. 300 milligrams is the clinically effective level used in all the clinical trials. This helps activate your GABA receptors. So, GABA is the body's primary relaxing neurotransmitter. This is what helps us relax enough to go to sleep. So, it doesn't necessarily knock you out, but it makes you really relaxed so that you have an easier time falling asleep. That's what Benisomno does. Um, Mazenol, this is our corn leaf extract. I've used this in other products for other companies over the years. It's one of my favorite ingredients because what the research shows is that it helps your body make melatonin naturally or have melatonin signaling so that you have better sleep quality. So you get a melatonin effect without giving synthetic melatonin. Your body just makes the natural amount that it needs. So sleep quality is the reason that that's in there. ETAS is a specific type of asparagus stem extract. This helps activate something in your cells called heat shock proteins. It's a process called autophagy, which is, and I'm going like this, like doing a little Pac-Man thing. Autophagy is how your cells clean up all the damage that they've accumulated throughout the day. So ETAS is a way to help your body to repair more efficiently overnight. And then the last ingredient is a really unique strain of probiotic bacteria called LP815. So Lactobacillus plantarum 815 is a probiotic that makes GABA. So remember, I just explained GABA is the body's primary relaxing neurotransmitter. So if we can make more of it, we can have a relaxation effect. If we can get better signaling at the receptor level, we get a better effect of our GABA. We cool our body, we maintain our blood sugar levels, we improve our melatonin signaling, and we repair our cells at their base level of rejuvenation. So you fall asleep faster, you stay asleep longer, you get better sleep quality, and you repair your tissue damage at a much higher efficiency. That's what's all in Zephyr. And we tested this. I think I've told you guys that. I know I've told my students this story, but we tested it at a sports and active nutrition summit a couple of months ago. We brought prototype versions of it to the summit and we gave it out to people at our booth. This is when we were voted the startup of the year. And so we said, "Hey, here's our Zenith for stress. Our next product that's coming out in a couple of months is going to be Zephyr. I don't think we even had a name for it at that point. Is going to be this for sleep quality." And we gave it out to people who were attending the conference. And man, the next day and the next day after that, people were coming back to our booth saying, "Hey, do you have any more of those stick packs? I slept like a baby, and I feel ready to go today." So we knew that we had really nailed it, and now it's out. So I'm really excited about that. So with that, it's on pre-launch right now. You can't find it on our website. If you go to threewaveswellness.com, you'll see Zenith, you'll see Stress Chocolates, you'll see Desert Tea, but you won't see Zephyr yet. This isn't going to go live until the beginning of next month, beginning of September. But we're doing this pre-launch special. If you go to this link, which is bit.ly, bit.ly slash, and this has to be in caps, sleep 30, you'll get to the hidden page where you can see this product. And then if you put in this discount code sleep30, you save 30% off. We're running this until the end of the month, until the new website goes live with the main product pages and things like that. So if you want to give it a try, over these next couple of weeks before the end of the month, and save 30%, please go and do that. I really think you'll like the way that it helps you feel. I think you'll like how Zenith helps you feel during the day. I think you'll like how Zephyr helps you feel during the night. And obviously, those two support each other, right? If you have a less stressful day, you're going to have a better sleep quality. If you have better sleep quality, you're going to have a less stressful day. So using them in conjunction with each other, I think is going to be the secret sauce for a lot of people. So with that, if you've liked this, please go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, like the different videos and things like that. It really helps it, get shared out to other viewers. If you really like this stuff and you want to get a deep dive, check out our certified mental wellness coach program, right? 16 continuing education units from some of the top health organizations in the world: American College of Sports Medicine, um, National Association for Sports Medicine, American Institute of Stress, National Association for Nutrition Professionals, et cetera, et cetera. Go to my education website, doctalbot.com, and you can have, a smorgasbord of education about mental fitness and adaptive capacity and neurobiotics and things like that. You can join our mental fitness community. If you sign up for our certification course, you automatically get into the mental fitness community, but you can also join the community just on its own if you want, to be in there with, on the cutting edge with like-minded people. And here's a few other places that you can find me. I've got a lot of things on my website for, free ebooks and links out to mini courses and all that kind of stuff. So thanks a lot for joining me tonight, you guys. There's just a bunch of things in here about running in the swimming pool and walking with an audiobook and things like that. And with that, I'll thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Bye bye.